Welcome to Fragile Bonds, to the powerful stories of family, love, loss, and the choices that shape our lives. Now let's begin today's story.
My name is Laura. I'm an accountant who works from home. My husband David works as a sales manager and travels frequently for business. And our daughter Emma is 10 years old, in 5th grade. Emma isn't my biological daughter. When I married David 5 years ago, Emma was only 5. At first, I struggled with how to connect with her, but now I feel we've built a relationship like a real mother and daughter. Emma calls me Mom. Every time I hear that word, my heart feels warm. When Emma comes home from school, she always spreads out her sketchbook on the living room table. The sound of her pencil moving across the page has become part of our daily routine. Flowers, animals, sometimes imaginary creatures, every picture she draws is so full of life. Mom, look. I drew the cat that was at the school library today. Emma brought her sketchbook over, looking pleased. There was a cat, drawn with every strand of fur carefully detailed. That's lovely. You've really gotten so good. When I praised her, Emma smiled, looking a little shy. I want to work with art someday. Maybe as a designer or an illustrator. Emma's eyes were shining with dreams. I gently stroked my daughter's head. I see David's parents a few times a month. My father-in-law George is semi-retired but still goes on business trips occasionally as a consultant. My mother-in-law Barbara is a homemaker who likes to show off. And David's sister Jessica has an 8-year-old daughter named Olivia. When the family gets together, Barbara always says the same kinds of things. Olivia is the perfect granddaughter. She has excellent grades and plays piano beautifully. She's really my pride and joy. Every time Olivia does something, Barbara praises her almost excessively. But with Emma, it was a little different. When Emma would show her sketchbook, Barbara would just glance at it briefly and say, "Drawing won't get you anywhere in life. You should learn something more practical." At first, I thought it was just mild criticism. But as it kept repeating, I gradually began to feel uncomfortable. Barbara showered Olivia with endless praise but had only cold words for Emma. Jessica seemed to go along with it too, sometimes looking at Emma's drawings and laughing, saying, "How childish." But George was different. Every time the family gathered, my father-in-law would look carefully at Emma's sketchbook. "Emma, keep drawing. Talent is something that blooms when you keep at it." Emma always nodded happily at George's words. Seeing that made me feel a little relieved. I talked to David about Barbara's attitude. But he just brushed it off, saying, "That's just how Mom is." True, Barbara didn't say anything directly hurtful to Emma. It was just that the difference in how she treated Olivia and Emma was starting to bother me. Still, I didn't think it was a major problem. The family gatherings were peaceful, and Emma didn't seem particularly bothered. In fact, Emma seemed to look forward to going to the in-laws' house. I just hoped that someday Barbara would recognize Emma's talent. When December came, the streets became festive with Christmas decorations. At our house too, we put up a small tree, and picking out ornaments with Emma was one of our annual pleasures. This year, Emma was happily circling the tree, thinking about where to place each decoration. One day in mid-December, Barbara called me. "Laura, listen. I'm thinking of having a big Christmas party this year. Let's all get together. It'll be a wonderful Christmas." Barbara's voice was excited. She loved planning events like this, especially occasions when her grandchildren would gather. "Of course, we'd love to come." When I answered, Barbara said, "I'm looking forward to it," with satisfaction and hung up. When I told Emma about it, her eyes lit up. "I can't wait. I love Christmas parties. I'll get to play with Olivia too." Seeing Emma's innocent smile, I started feeling excited too. Maybe the subtle discomfort I always felt at the in-laws' gatherings would blow away on a special day like Christmas. I picked out presents for Emma and Olivia and looked forward to the day. However, a few days before Christmas, George called. "Laura, I have bad news." My father-in-law's voice sounded apologetic. "I have an urgent business trip. I might not make it back for Christmas. I feel terrible about Emma." "Oh no. Emma was looking forward to seeing you, Grandpa." When I said this disappointedly, George paused for a moment before saying, "Could you put Emma on the phone?" I called Emma and handed her the phone. Emma excitedly called out, "Grandpa," at first, but her expression clouded a little as she listened. Still, she quickly regained her smile. "Grandpa, good luck with your work." "I'll be fine." After hanging up, Emma looked a little lonely, but soon returned to her usual self. George was the only person in the in-laws' family who always praised Emma's drawings. Christmas without him would probably feel a bit empty for Emma. On Christmas Eve, I was baking cookies with Emma. Emma was humming as she cut out cookie dough with cookie cutters. It was a peaceful evening. Then my cell phone rang. It was George. "Laura, I need to talk to you." My father-in-law's voice was serious. "Unfortunately, I won't be able to make it to the party tomorrow. But if anything happens, please contact me right away." "If anything happens? What do you mean?" I asked back, puzzled. What could possibly happen at a Christmas party? Just in case. "Anyway, if something bothers you, don't hesitate to call me." George's words were vague. I felt a little uneasy but didn't press further. My father-in-law could be a worrier, and he was probably just concerned about Emma. "All right. I'll let you know if anything comes up." Even after hanging up, George's words stayed with me. But in the warm atmosphere of Christmas Eve, that anxiety soon faded. On the morning of December 25th, Emma and I headed to the in-laws' house. David had been away on a business trip since the day before but was planning to join us in the evening. In the car, Emma was looking out the window, unusually quiet. "Emma, are you okay? Is something on your mind?" When I asked, Emma turned around and smiled. "No, I'm fine. I'm just a little nervous." "Nervous? About a Christmas party?" "Yeah. But it's okay, I'm looking forward to it." Emma's answer was somewhat vague. But I didn't ask further. Kids have their own things to think about. When we arrived at the in-laws' house, Jessica and Olivia were already there. Barbara greeted us at the entrance with her usual bright smile. "Merry Christmas. Come in, come in. Look at the living room, this year is special." When we entered the living room, there was an enormous Christmas tree. The tree seemed to reach the ceiling, covered densely with sparkling ornaments. And under the tree, presents wrapped in colorful paper were piled up like a mountain. "Wow!" Emma whispered softly. Olivia was sitting on the sofa, already gazing at the presents. Jessica was looking at the tree with satisfaction, wine glass in hand. "I wanted to make this year's Christmas special. For my grandchildren." Barbara said this with a laugh. But there was something off about that smile. Something I couldn't quite explain, a subtle discomfort. It was the same feeling I'd had at previous family gatherings. Emma stood next to me, staring at the tree. Her hands seemed to be trembling slightly. But why? It was just a Christmas party. Why was Emma so nervous? Now, everyone sit down. I've prepared hot chocolate. Barbara's voice rang out. Emma and I sat on the sofa, across from Jessica and Olivia. The living room was warm with the fire from the fireplace, and Christmas songs played quietly. On the surface, it was the perfect Christmas morning. After finishing the hot chocolate, Barbara stood up. Now, let's open presents. This is what the children look forward to most, isn't it? Barbara's voice was cheerful. Olivia's eyes lit up as she stood and rushed to the tree. Emma sat still next to me. I lightly patted my daughter's shoulder, encouraging her, "Go ahead." Emma slowly stood up and sat down next to Olivia. "Let's start with Olivia." Barbara said this and placed a large box in front of Olivia. It was wrapped in obviously expensive paper, decorated with a pink ribbon. Olivia happily untied the ribbon and opened the box. Wow! Olivia's cry of delight echoed through the living room. Inside the box were designer brand clothes. A pale blue dress with a white cardigan. Both were brand new, still with tags attached. "Thank you, Grandma." Olivia hugged Barbara. Barbara embraced her granddaughter with satisfaction and smiled proudly at Jessica. "I want Olivia to wear only the best. Now open this one." Barbara handed Olivia present after present. Toys, a game console, picture books, and more brand name clothes. Each time Olivia opened a box, cheers filled the living room. Jessica was happily taking pictures too. I looked at Emma. My daughter sat quietly, watching Olivia open her presents. Her expression seemed emotionless. Just still, and quiet. About 10 minutes passed. Around Olivia, open presents were piled up like a mountain. Barbara finally turned toward Emma. "Now, it's Emma's turn." Barbara's voice sounded different from when she'd been talking to Olivia. The temperature had dropped, so to speak. I wanted to believe I was imagining it. What Barbara brought wasn't a box of presents. It was a large black garbage bag. No ribbon, no wrapping paper, just a plain black garbage bag. I couldn't believe my eyes. "Emma, this is your present." Barbara said this and plopped the garbage bag down in front of Emma. Emma stared at the bag and said nothing. "Go ahead and open it." Jessica prompted her. I could hear a faint laugh in her voice. Emma slowly opened the bag. Inside were clothes stuffed in. But they weren't new clothes like Olivia had received. They were obviously worn, faded clothes. A sweater with frayed cuffs, jeans with worn-out knees, a t-shirt with stains. These are clothes Olivia outgrew. They're still wearable, aren't they? New clothes are a luxury. Children grow so fast that hand-me-downs are good enough, right? Barbara said this and laughed. That laugh echoed brightly, as if this were perfectly natural. Yes, yes, hand-me-downs suit you better. I think these kinds of clothes fit Emma better than new ones. Jessica said this laughing too. Their laughter overlapped and echoed through the living room. I was speechless. This was a present. This was a Christmas present. Olivia gets clothes and game consoles worth thousands of dollars, and Emma gets hand-me-downs stuffed in a garbage bag. Emma. I tried to call out to my daughter. But Emma didn't look at me, she just stared at the garbage bag, clutching it tightly. Her small hands gripped the bag so hard they turned white. I tried to stand up. I had to say something. This couldn't end like this. But then Emma moved. My daughter slowly stood up, holding the garbage bag. And she walked toward me. I tried to embrace her, but Emma brought her face close to my ear. "Mom, they're the ones who'll regret this." Emma's voice was quiet. But those words carried a strange certainty. I looked at my daughter in surprise. Emma was smiling. Not sadly, not angrily. Just quietly, with a smile full of conviction. "Emma, what do you?" I tried to ask, but Emma shook her head. "It's okay, Mom. I'm really okay." Leaving those words, Emma sat down again. She placed the garbage bag on her lap and stared at it. "Now, let's have lunch. I've prepared a special turkey this year." Barbara headed to the kitchen as if nothing had happened. Jessica and Olivia were spreading out the new clothes together, saying, "This is cute," and "This is lovely too." As if what they'd done to Emma was trivial. I was trembling with anger. But Emma held my hand and shook her head slightly. "It's okay," her eyes said. During lunch, Barbara and Jessica talked endlessly about Olivia. "Olivia is really so pretty, isn't she? That outfit looks perfect on her. My daughter is the best. Blood will tell, after all." At Jessica's words, I unconsciously clenched my fists. Blood will tell. Was she indirectly saying that Emma wasn't my biological daughter? I quietly suppressed my anger and held Emma's hand. My daughter's hand wasn't cold anymore. When the party ended, we left the in-laws' house. As we got in the car, Emma put the garbage bag in the back seat. I tried to talk to my daughter several times, but words wouldn't come out. After getting home, I finally asked Emma. "Emma, what did you say earlier? What did you mean about them regretting it?" Emma looked up at me and smiled again. "You'll understand tomorrow, Mom. So don't worry about it today. Good night." My daughter said this and went into her room. I was left in the living room, just stunned. I didn't understand what Emma meant. But I couldn't forget that expression of conviction on my daughter's face. The next morning, I woke up early. I'd barely slept, unable to get last night's events out of my head. When I peeked into Emma's room, my daughter seemed to still be sleeping. I made coffee and sat on the living room sofa. Around 8 o'clock, Emma came out. My daughter was in her usual pajamas, with slightly messy bed hair. But her expression looked different from yesterday. Somehow calm, filled with quiet confidence. "Good morning, Mom." Emma said this and picked up her tablet. She looked at the screen and took a small breath. "It came." Emma murmured. "Emma, what came?" When I asked, Emma held out the tablet to me. An email was displayed on the screen. When I saw the sender's name, my eyes widened. It was from the headquarters of a world-famous fashion brand. The subject line read, "Congratulations on winning the Junior Design Contest." I read through the email with trembling hands. Emma's design had been selected from thousands of entries from across the country. A prize of $100,000 would be awarded. Furthermore, she would be paid an annual contract fee of $50,000 as the brand's exclusive junior designer. And next month, she was invited to a presentation in New York. Is this real?" My voice was shaking. Emma nodded quietly. "I've been preparing for a year. Grandpa helped me. Grandpa George. I looked at my daughter in surprise. Emma smiled slightly. Grandpa saw my sketchbook and said I had talent. So he suggested I enter the contest. But he told me to keep it a secret. He said Grandma wouldn't understand. Just then, my cell phone rang. It was George. Laura, did Emma see the email? My father-in-law's voice was excited. We just saw it. Father-in-law, this is. It's real. Congratulations, Emma. You did it. I could hear George's voice on the other end of the phone, shouting with joy. Father-in-law, you've known about this for a year. Yes. I happened to see Emma's sketchbook. It had ideas for designs that remade old clothes, and I was amazed. I thought this was real talent. But I couldn't tell Barbara. I knew she wouldn't understand Emma's talent. At George's words, my chest felt hot. My father-in-law had secretly supported Emma's dream for a whole year. Not being able to come for Christmas was also. Yes, I really wanted to come. But I was worried Barbara might do something. That's why I called you. I told you to let me know if anything happened. I remembered yesterday. The hand-me-downs stuffed in a garbage bag. Barbara and Jessica's laughter. A lot happened. But Emma was okay. I see. Emma is a strong girl. Well, this is going to be exciting from here on out. After hanging up, I hugged Emma. Congratulations, Emma. Really, congratulations. My daughter cried quietly in my arms. That afternoon, a reporter from the local newspaper came for an interview. As a 10-year-old genius designer, Emma's article would be published in the next day's paper. In addition, the local TV station also came for an interview. Emma's feature would be on the evening news. The reporters peppered Emma with questions. How did you learn to design? Emma thought for a moment before answering. I looked at lots of old clothes and studied them. How they were made, what materials were used. I thought even old clothes could be given new life. The reporters nodded as if moved. The article would describe her as a girl who rose from poverty and a genius who learned by remaking old clothes. Emma's face and name spread throughout the region in no time. In the evening, my cell phone rang. It was Jessica. Laura, hey, did you see this? It's going around on social media. Jessica's voice sounded agitated. See what? The article about Emma. The $100,000 prize, is that real? I answered quietly. It's real. Emma won the junior design contest for a fashion brand. I could hear Jessica gasp on the other end of the phone. Wait, you mean that brand? Yes, the same brand as the clothes Olivia was wearing yesterday. Silence fell. Then Jessica said hurriedly. I have to tell Mom. The phone disconnected. A few minutes later, Barbara called this time. Laura. I just found out. Emma won, how wonderful. That's our granddaughter for you. Barbara's voice was abnormally bright. But I hadn't forgotten her words from yesterday. Yesterday you said, new clothes are a luxury. My voice was cold. Oh, that was a joke. You understand, right? Just family teasing. A joke? That's not how Emma heard it. Laura, don't be angry. I've always cared about Emma. Hey, why don't you come over? Let's celebrate Emma. I took a deep breath. We're busy right now. Maybe another time. I said this and hung up. When I returned to the living room, Emma was sitting on the sofa, staring at the garbage bag she'd received yesterday. "Mom, this really was useful," Emma said. "What?" "I studied these hand-me-downs and came up with ideas for remakes. How old clothes are made, where they fray easily, what kind of stitching is used." It was all educational. So I'm grateful to Grandma and them. Without knowing it, they helped me. At Emma's words, I couldn't say anything. My daughter was truly strong. And smart. Barbara and Jessica probably still didn't understand what they'd done. But they would understand soon. Starting tomorrow, Emma's article would be published in the newspaper and broadcast on TV. And everyone would know what my mother-in-law and sister-in-law had done to Emma on Christmas Day. I gently stroked Emma's head. "You really are strong." Emma smiled. "Because you've always supported me, Mom. And Grandpa too. I know that Real family means people who support your dreams." That evening, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, George was standing there. "Emma, congratulations." George hugged Emma. My daughter started crying again in my father-in-law's arms. "Grandpa, thank you. If it weren't for you, I couldn't have done anything." "No, Emma. You're the one with talent. I just gave you a push." George gently patted my daughter's head. Watching them, my chest felt hot. After sitting in the living room, I showed George the video from Christmas Day. It was footage that remained on my smartphone. Olivia opening presents one after another. And the black garbage bag placed in front of Emma. Barbara's words, "New clothes are a luxury." Jessica's laughter saying, "Hand-me-downs suit you better." George's face turned red in an instant. Such treatment. Unforgivable. My father-in-law said in a trembling voice. "I'm going to have a talk with Barbara. This has gone too far." A few days later, I heard from George. He had told Barbara that he no longer recognized her as family. He didn't intend to divorce, but unless she apologized to Emma, he had no intention of forgiving her. Meanwhile, Barbara was desperate. My cell phone had messages left every day. But I never answered. Apparently she tried to contact the media, attempting to tell a false heartwarming story about talent blooming through a grandmother's love. But I posted the video from Christmas Day on social media. The video spread in an instant, and people throughout the region learned about Barbara's actions. The comments section overflowed with criticism. Barbara couldn't walk around the neighborhood anymore and friends started keeping their distance. Jessica was also in a complicated position. Olivia had become a huge fan of Emma's. "Mom, I want to be a designer like Aunt Emma." Olivia apparently started saying this every day. Jessica couldn't say anything. She could only feel ashamed of herself for mocking Emma in front of her daughter. A few months later, Emma's first design line was announced. The theme was "New Life for Old Clothes." It was sustainable fashion that revived old clothes. George sat in the front row at the presentation. My father-in-law watched his granddaughter's work with tears streaming down his face. David and I also watched our daughter proudly. Emma gave a confident speech on stage. Family means people who believe in your talent. I learned that the connection of hearts is more important than blood ties. The venue filled with applause. I wiped away tears, feeling my daughter's growth. That night, after we got home, Emma said to me, "Mom, I'm really happy. Because I have a real family." I hugged Emma. This daughter wasn't a child I gave birth to. But she was my daughter, more precious than anyone. True value can't be measured by money or appearance. The connection of hearts is more important than blood ties. Real family means people who support your dreams. On Christmas morning, what Emma received was hand-me-downs stuffed in a garbage bag. But ultimately, that became nourishment that allowed her talent to bloom. And it also clearly showed who truly loved her. It wasn't just Barbara and Jessica who had regrets. But Emma never held a grudge against them. My daughter was simply moving forward on her own path. Together with people who believed in her talent. That was our new family's form.